What's up, y'all? This is Tim Eineke. Welcome to At the Library, streaming on www.rapstation.com. Justin Bua, welcome to And You Don't Stop with Chuck D. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, the first four legends in your book are Muhammad Ali, James Brown, Michael Jackson, and then Kool Herc. Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to know why that order, just because, usually the train of thought or the thinking is Kool Herc, founder of hip hop. We should start with him. So why do the other three preceding him?
Well, because really, for example, without James Brown, there is no Kool Herc. I mean, Herc is isolating the instrumental, DJing for the first time, doing the merry-go-round, right, back and forth. And what is that instrumental he's isolating? Probably Funky Drummer, or probably one of James Brown's, thousands of other songs.
Right.
Without James Brown, really, what are the B-boys breaking to? When they get that, they're breaking to not only James Brown, but they're also emulating James Brown's footwork and his style and his savoir-faire. Because without James Brown, arguably, there's no hip-hop.
Right.
It doesn't even exist. It's not even a thought.
Right. And
in our collective unconscious. So we can't have Herc without James. You know what I mean?
Right, of course. And
that's how ancestrally powerful James Brown is in the DNA of hip hop.
Right, and he also did, and then later on when he collaborated with Full Force, he did that album, which I'm slipping right now, but the whole single is all about hip hop sampling him, which is
he's the most sampled artist in the history of hip hop,
which is quite incredible. And I have to say the piece itself is pretty amazing, where you just highlight James Brown in a kind of a beige-ish background, but I imagine that's all you really need when you think about James Brown.
I kept it all in sepia, which is kind of like reminiscent of his era and his time. I mean, he was mostly on TV during, we watched him mostly during the black and white era, or America watched him. I wasn't alive watching him during black and white. I was the color generation, but, that's how most of America really saw him.
And actually,
the medium of television and black and white TV.
And I want to, as I was flipping through the book and reading each piece you had, the first woman you conclude is Sha Rock, and yep. I actually want to understand if you could just talk about why you included her.
Well, first of all, I wanted to give a shout out to the women, because hip hop was a very male centric culture, obviously at first, and that's really because as hip hop really came from the streets, guys from the Black Spades and a lot of the other gangs. With Bambaataa creating the Mighty Zulu Nation, a lot of those people really became, steeped into the hip-hop lifestyle, whether they were B-boys or MCs or DJs or graffiti writers. So you could see that that's why it would be so male-dominated. But there was a lot of women, I wanted to give praise to a lot of the women out there who really, put it down. And Sha Rock was the first person who came to my mind. Because remember, this is not an authoritative list on the 50 greatest legends of hip-hop. This is Bua's list.
Right, of course, yeah.
Now, some of them you can't argue with, in my opinion, like James Brown and Sha Rock, but, she was I spoke to a lot of people, and I remember her back in the days, and she was just fantastic. There was a lot of girls. There was Pebbly Poo. A lot of people don't know who she is, but there was a lot of girls who put it down, but Sha Rock stayed in my imagination, and then I heard from a lot of people like Grand Wizard Theodore, when Sha Rock went out there, she just destroyed men. Like DMC talks about Sha Rock endlessly. Like he said that he looked up to her because she was just a great rapper, great battle rapper, and a great MC, and had so much confidence. And so he kind of looked at her and was influenced by her. His style was influenced by Sha Rock. So she was a very influential, not only female, but a very influential MC. So I had to give her shouts. And then I also, of course, gave Lauryn Hill, Missy Elliott, Lady Pink, Queen Latifah, MC Lyte. And those are all the women in my book. And
I actually wanted to get into that because not obviously, but the majority of the legends in your book are male.
Yes.
Now, is that because, I mean, you're a guy and it's like, well, not many women influence me, or is that more of a commentary on hip-hop?
I think it's a commentary on hip-hop. I mean, I was raised by a single mother, so, I was clearly more influenced by women in my life than I was by men. But that being said, hip-hop, like I said before, was male-dominated.
Right.
I mean, it came out of violence, so it was all about ego and kind of like, marking your territory and posing and peacocking and pride and, a lot of that, and getting girls in a lot of ways, So it was really male-centric. In the beginning of the culture. Girls weren't really as inclined to, like, bomb the 2 trains by climbing into the yards and dealing with Doberman pincers and transit cops and, all kinds of crazy, violent stuff. That's just not what girls are inclined to do. They're way more intelligent than that. And we're a lot more animalistic.
Right.
And but that was the initial, when you went to a jam, even when I saw the Rocksteady crew on a daily basis in Rocksteady Park, there was Daisy, there was girls there in the scene, but they were mostly guys.
Right. And before I go into more of the pieces, I kind of give me an art 101 here. I noticed that you go through, it's like acrylic, and then you go to prism sticks, and then you do a mixed media, and then you do some oil. I guess how do you choose which one to use for, which portrait or, painting?
Well, most of my paintings are in acrylic because that's basically the medium of choice that I use. That's what I like. It's fast. It dries fast for me. It's relatively less toxic. But oil paints I use for people like Guru, Tupac, and Biggie, and basically because you can't get that richness with and that texture with acrylic, you just can't.
Right. And
so oil also, it has the legacy of the master medium. All the masters, from Frans Hals to Caravaggio to Velázquez to Rembrandt, painted in oils, and so it was a nod to those who passed. With Guru, Biggie, and Pac, and a nod to the fact that I wanted to give them that master painting feeling, So that's why I used oils for them. In terms of Prismasticks, a lot of the guys who were drawn in Prismasticks, like, which is basically wax crayon, are, people like Shah Rock and Grandmaster Kaz, people who are really, really old school, who I wanted to kind of keep in that feeling of that raw, old school, gritty flavor, because that's kind of how I remember them.
Okay.
You see? I remember them as, way back in the days when they were holding it down in a very authentic way. Painting can get very, colorful, certainly colorful, and also slick.
Right. And I have to say, one thing that I actually truly appreciated in your book, I have to say, is the painting of Jay Dilla.
Oh, thank you.
Not because of just, I thought the painting caught him perfectly. And obviously, today is the anniversary, February 10th, of his death, 6 years ago, and Detroit is honoring him today. But what you wrote actually really hit home, because I think a lot of times we do get stuck in that, as lovers of hip hop, you get stuck in the place where you're supposed to know everyone. And as you know, I admitted in my book that I didn't even know who Jay Dilla was, and yet I was hanging out with him on the trailer on the set of Tainted when I did the Slum Village video with with Slum Village. So it was crazy. I had been hanging out with him. I had been listening to all of his Far Side stuff. I had been a fan. I had been in communication with him, and I didn't really understand the levity of his work. Same thing with me. People always I get a lot, Tim, Jay Dilla, the greatest of all time. And I'm like, yeah, I got to check that out. So, it's like, and then you realize, and then you do the research, and it's like Tribe, Slum Village, Far Side, and, all these, and Common, and all these cats, and it's just like, it's pretty incredible, his his catalog of music.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, I mean, would you? I don't want to put you on the spot. Would you say greatest producer of all time?
No, I would say Marley Marl is.
Oh, okay. Wow. And why is that?
Because Marley Marl was such a wave, and like as much as I love Dilla and I love his work, I think that Marley Marl completely and utterly transformed the landscape of music and producing. In other words, there's no Timberland without Marley Marl. And I'll go further to say there's no Jay Dilla without Marley Marl. So Marley Marl was such a gigantic tsunami in the culture. So that's what I think.
What's your what was this whole book? What was the, I guess, hardest piece emotionally to put together?
There was a couple of really tough ones. I mean, Tupac was really hard to catch his essence, and to make it very, spiritual but hard, feminine but masculine. So you really had to catch something in the eyes, the spirit of him. So you look into the window of his soul through his eyes. That was really important for me. I mean, all of them were difficult in different ways, Wu-Tang was challenging to get likenesses of all of them because there were so many to paint.
Right.
And I was like, Jesus. I mean, this goes on forever.
Right.
To kill the Ghostface, Rizza, Jizza, Kizza, Mizza, Fizza, Lizza, Dizza, Bizza, Kizza, Rizza, Wizza. It's just like, damn, it's just, there's a gajillion. And do I leave any out? Like, right. I'm doing Tribe. Do I leave Jerobi out? Because he was really only on one album.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to do Fife, and obviously, Tip, and, Ali Shaheed Muhammad. But do I do Jerobi? And of course, I had to do it because, at the end of the day, you got to think of them as a quartet, but... So a lot of thought went into not only, who went in there, but composition and design and color, and it was pretty intense.
And it kind of serves as a reminder how important all these guys were. And one of the paintings that really stood out was Mr. Wiggles, which it just the first drawing, which is pencil-like, I guess. And then also then the I guess the final product or the next painting. Yeah. It shows you. I mean, you have him on a city block, and it kind of shows how huge these guys were. I mean, his legs take up the whole block, and it really stood out for me. And I actually wanted to know the inspiration behind that.
Well, Mr. Wiggles, as I say in the book, is the most important icon in the history of hip-hop, I mean, in my opinion. He wasn't the most influential. Afrika Bambaataa was, and Afrika Bambaataa as a whole to the culture was. But to me, Wiggles is the greatest icon of hip-hop because he represents all the elements of the culture. He's the best popper. He's one of the best top rockers. He's a dope b-boy. He's a really good MC. He's a good DJ. He could drum, he can guitar, he can produce. He writes graffiti. In fact, he's a really great graffiti writer. So he's not only learned all of the facets of dancing from what we call electric boogie, which was a bastardization of boogaloo from Fresno with all the poppers like Popping Pete and Taco and Skeeter Rabbit. He really mastered the culture and its history. And on top of that, he's a Puerto Rican from the South Bronx who really grew up with it. So it really is part of his, bloodline. He's got hip-hop in him. And you have to have that certain firsthand experience that he did in order to really absorb the culture and take it to such a high level. And, he's in his mid-late 40s right now, and he's still the, in my opinion, greatest dancer alive. So because of that and his exposure and his understanding, he really is, and his understanding, like I said, not of just one aspect of the culture, but all aspects of the culture. Because of that, he is the greatest icon of hip-hop.
Wow.
He's a powerful, important person. The problem is in our culture that we don't honor the dancing part as much as we do as the MCs.
Right. I mean, and that's actually one of the the interesting, because I actually grew up in the time where the MC was getting more and more highlighted. I mean, we had MTV and
of course,
Box and everything like that. So it's kind of this whole book experience, this experience has definitely been more of a learning experience for me.
Yeah.
The video that you're previewing your book is of your daughter going through the pages.
Yes.
So I wonder, who do you hope her legends are?
Me. Guys like Chuck D, who wrote my foreword.
Yes.
Which was great and incredibly articulate. I think that I want her legends to be whoever they are, man. I mean, really, really honestly, there's a lack of understanding. I speak in universities all the time, and sad to say, I mention, Public Enemy and Run DMC and, LL Cool J, and besides the context of LL Cool J being like the host of the Grammys or being an actor, people are like, oh, like they had, who are they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how fast the culture changes. People that are in rock and roll, they never forget the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, though.
Right.
But with hip-hop, it's so, like, what's the next? Everybody's on to, like, Rihanna, David Guetta, and Skrillex, so that people have already forgotten about, really 10 years ago, what was going on.
Right.
So I really hope that she remembers the legends that were impactful to me, the most potent lyrical, political band of all time, Public Enemy, the most potent trio, and the greatest group, and I'll put them right up there with the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, Run DMC, Tribe Called Quest, Wu-Tang. Those are the people that I really hope, Beastie Boys, those are the people that are supremely important in the timeline of not only hip-hop, but of culture, because they reflect the socio-economical, political climate through their words and through their lyrics.
Justin Bua, The Legends of Hip Hop is the new book. Thanks so much for joining us on And You Don't Stop with Chuck D.
Thank you.
Don't stop. Just turn on your mind when you're ready to rock. Because the sun won't shine, the rain won't stop, but we got style called punk rock. Just get about the jazz, not to have some fun. The we're two DJs looking for a +1. To the people out there, we want you to know we are the ones with the magical show. We're two DJs and 5 MCs. 4 other fellas plus 1 is me. We're here to please everybody out there. Forget about the problems, get them out your hair. So just get on the floor, don't you be shy. You can